How do you fix it? They fix it. They fix it. So for you, it's quiet. There's crows calling everybody heard it on the recording. So it's that being super square. So he did. OCD was well, you said it's far.
I need to share the screen.
Is the smell getting better?
Be careful. That was a weird. So this says it'll stop other students sharing.
Yeah, that's fine. So it's just telling you this. I thought it was a foreground, so it's like very slow showing up there.
Because I started moving.
Ready when you are.
I think so.
Awesome.
All right, item 3.1 is the Concord. You may recognize this from a few months ago when it came through for a rezone from R75 to R65. So it was the one large lot, as you can see. They want to split it into 4. That's why they changed it to a smaller lot. So each lot is approximately 66 feet wide, which conforms to this R65 zone. And this is the proposed plat. Shows that they'll be finishing off the cul-de-sac. It has the 4 lots. This is what it looks like now from the different streets. Each lot will have frontage on a street. There won't be any deep lots here. And we recommend approval. Does anybody have any questions on this one? All right. Item 3.2, Pear Hollow Estates. This one actually came through for the preliminary plat. I can't remember, it's like 1997 or something. Doesn't really matter, 1992. And then again in 2004. And now they want to come through with the final plat. Let's double check. Yeah. So because we don't usually bring final plats to planning commission, you approve the preliminary plat and then the final plat's automatically approved because you approved the preliminary. But in this case, it's been so long since we approved it that we wanted to bring it back.
And there are already houses on both of them, so it's not like everything's already built.
Yeah, they're just changing property lines. The property to the north wanted more property, so they're just realigning the property lines and making that so there's no useless strips or lots of record in the middle. So they will both more than meet the minimum lot requirement size for the R12 zone. And this is what the existing plats look like. There's 2 separate plats now. So we will vacate those 2 lots on those 2 separate plats and make one new 2-lot subdivision. And this is what they look like from the different street views. And again, we recommend approval and with the condition that the the property be conveyed to the owner by deed. They didn't want to go through that process if this got denied for whatever reason. But if this gets approved, then they have no problem. The deed is not going to be a problem. They know about it. Any questions on this one?
I have a few comments. He's my neighbor.
Oh, is he?
And the people, so I've talked to Matt, I've talked to both neighbors. So Matt owns the front end of the back lot. The back lot backs on the UVU and he bought it, so the UVU wouldn't buy it, actually. And he's remodeling the houses there. It's interesting, he's a real estate agent, and I asked him, I said, so have you talked to the neighbors about this? When the thing first came, I said, no, I hadn't really thought about that, because I own both lots. I said, I know, but you need to talk to your neighbors, and he has since then. And they're, actually spoke to two of the back neighbors, the side neighbor in the back and one on the other side. I spoke with the other one there, they're all in favor of it. But
Nothing's really changing, it's just a, different owners.
he just
on
wants
different parts.
more room in the backyard. The other side will be a rental, it won't be a student house rental, there's not enough room. It has been a rental, he owns it too, and actually he had 2 consecutive families who were 12 people. After renting it to 2 consecutive families of 12 people, I think he remodeled it to make it so that families that big couldn't live there, but anyway.
So each family had 12 people.
They both had 2 kids, they were both members of a Greek Orthodox church that was built a building down in southern Utah. Anyway, yeah, so Matt won't be here today,
I was gonna say, he will not be here,
right?
so.
What's his last name?
Any other comments or questions?
Evans, he's a realtor, Matt Evans, the Evans.
All right, item 3.3 is Selman. On this one, there are 2 lots. The mother owned both of the lots. She passed away. She lived in the home to the northeast, and the son lived in the house to the south. She passed away, so now the siblings want to sell her house, but there's a large garage that the son wants to keep, as it's not on his property at the moment, it's on his mother's property. So they're moving the property line to include the garage in his property. And then they'll go ahead and sell the other house that the mother lived in before she passed away. So these are 2 existing plats. They're quite old, but added nonetheless. This is the new plat, and it shows the property line going around the garage. She'll have access to it from the street. And then they'll sell that lot to the north with the existing house on it. And they also, the same as the previous plat, they have to get a deed recorded, deeding that portion of the new lot to him, and then we'll record the plat. So this will also have a condition that be deeded before the plat's recorded. But they also didn't want to go ahead and do that if this was going to get denied for any reason. So, any questions on that one?
In this case, one's a lot, it's an empty lot, like there's houses on both those lots,
No,
correct?
they both have homes.
Just like the last one.
Yeah, they just want that garage on the lot that they're not gonna sell. Actually, the garage is larger than the house, so it's a fairly large lot, garage. Any questions on that one? All right. And then Matt will take it from here.
Thank you. We covered this one 2 weeks ago, but so I will just move at a brisk pace through this, but at any point, please slow me down. I might answer questions.
Has anything changed from a couple weeks ago? No, okay.
Just a reminder, Vineyard City contacted us to look at connections between their city and our cities, particularly what we're calling the Lake Bottom Canal Trail. But looking at that, there's also connections to a rail trail and also possible connections on 4th South to our Geneva Road trails. These are multi-use paths, are defined in our parks code as separated connectors. They support hiking, mountain biking, and equestrian use where appropriate. It doesn't say pedestrians, but I think that's implied. And they usually have a separated shoulder. However, because we're largely built out, multi-use path can be adaptable to include next to the road if needed. However, we do shoot for at least 8 foot, but the ideal is 10-foot minimum widths to allow for 2-way traffic of bicycles and pedestrians. Yeah. We good? Oh, what's that? All right, take it off.
So are electric bikes considered
motorized,
You know, I think technically, but the intent isn't,
what about
the intent isn't.
the scooters, the motorized scooters?
Yeah, again, I think technically they're electric, but I don't think the intent is to exclude them on these pathways. Again, when I wasn't one that authored this, and I'm not sure if they're being conscientiously thinking about all the different caveats that might go along the way with the e-bike, e-scooter revolution. So this graphic again just demonstrates how they're adaptable to the situation. This is our current plan. It's very difficult to read. I'll show a zoom up of the area in a moment. The three areas that we've discussed. And detail where would be have these connections from Geneva Road multi-use path to these other multi-use paths. We believe we have sufficient right of way with UDOT over under the bridge. That will be confirmed with any survey work. This is the one connecting the sports park to the rail trail. And the trail connecting, there is a sidewalk today, but hopefully future upgrades for a multi-use path between Lakeside Sports Complex and Geneva Road multi-use trail. This is the area that we're specifically amending in the yellow box. And so in the resolution, I just have these two graphics, which show the zoomed in area. And it's difficult to see, but there are additional lines on the map. So we have multi-use path here, here. There's just one little dash there that's so short. And I did include, this is an existing trail because that's been recently built. And we just concepts of how that fourth south would work if we were able to find funding to upgrade that section. So any questions on it? Okay.
When did Vineyard approach Orem about doing this?
They contacted me in early June.
So this year, not long
Yeah.
ago.
Yeah. So Morgan Grimm's community development director there gave me a call and said, hey, come out and look at this. Got the discussion going.
Well, you're the expert. What negative things would there be on doing this?
Sure. You know, I don't think there's any particular negatives. I mean, obvious one that comes to mind is when we do have funding, we will have to look at ensuring that we have the land and the right of way. I don't anticipate major purchases of property. We usually in this situation purchase property, don't condemn it where we take it. So we look for willing owners in the process. So that could be a negative if we don't have willing sellers in the future.
You said that
Purchase strips.
grant money would pay for this. It seems like you mentioned that.
Yeah, there's several grant opportunities out there. One that we're pursuing right now for a different area of the city is like Utah Trails Recreation Grant. It comes up every year. There's several $1 million that they allocate to different cities. Competitive process. We'll also be applying, what's the other one? There's another one this year. All these acronyms, I lose track of them. But there's several pools of money from the state, and there's other opportunities from the federal government. A lot of those are administered through Mountain Land Association of Governments, which is our regional transportation authority. And so we actually just put in a letter of intent to apply for some technical assistance through MAG. That would be if we are awarded that grant, it wouldn't be construction, but it would be additional design work, engineering, best practices, getting a coherent plan. And that one we're applying for some improvements on 800 North, multi-use. A bunch of that trail is there, but there's a bunch of missing segments. And there's some needed pedestrian crossing improvements. And so we're looking at grant money to help the plan.
Any idea what the cost would be? Do we have any?
No, it's part of the technical assistance grant, not for these three. But that's one thing we'll be exploring with the 800 North improvements is the consultant coming up with an estimated cost. That will help us in the competitive grant cycle because we'll be more able to concretely say, we estimate the cost of these improvements, X, Y, and Z. I'm not much of an estimator. I can get some ballparks and we can request quotes and stuff, but it's helpful to have a professional engineer and planner take a deeper dive into the costs, and that's part of technical assistance too.
How close are you to the lake
On,
on these, where you're?
let me go to this one.
A couple of miles.
Miles.
Well, it's at least, isn't it at least a mile?
Yeah, so the three improvements that we're talking about are on Geneva Road and by the Lakeside Sports, so we're at least a mile, mile and a half to the lake. However, there are additional trails planned, so you see the Lake Shore Trail that's actually funded right now. It's under design work. And phase 2 of that will connect from south of the golf course to into Vineyard. Again, the more connectivity we have in this area, the more likely people are able to ride and connect into these other trails that we plan for the west on the shoreline.
This might be good for the Utah Lake Authority to see what is this, if they have plans for the money.
Yeah, the Utah Lake Authority is really involved in the Lake Shore Trail process. And they're definitely supportive of any connections we make into
They might
highlighting the lake itself, because that's, you know, one of their biggest issues is public perception, and they feel that more people visit the lake can shift attitudes towards the lake. So you're saying, right?
You're saying, well, just that, this might tie into what we're trying to do. I don't know the Authority Commission, so.
Yeah, I'd be happy to reach out to, is it Eric right now?
Yeah.
The director?
Because Julie now is the chair,
Yeah,
the mayor.
yeah. Yeah, I'll send her a copy of this over to, it's Eric, right? Ellis?
Eric Ellis.
Eric Ellis, and give him an update of what we're doing to try and improve the connectivity to the lake. Okay. Thank you for your time. Well, if we have a large audience, I don't suspect we will have one. I'll go through this in detail, but if we don't have an audience, I'll just be brief, if that's okay.
Yeah, no problem. No, you want to hear it a third time, right?
We
have 15 minutes, Jason. What do you want to do?
So could I just briefly say next time, so November 4th, or whatever the next meeting is, we're gonna take the
November
planning
2nd.
commission on a tour of our office and kind of give you a background of what we do,
That's great.
intake, and preparing for planning commission, things like that, take you down to engineering and other aspects of our department, so you can see how they interlink work and address any questions and whatever. So
That'd be great.
hopefully we'll take some of that time and not have too many items, but the time will dictate how many items we have, but hopefully we'll be able to spend at least 20 minutes walking through and give you an idea of what we do. Is there any projects, speaking of tours, are there any projects around town that you'd be interested in going on site to see? We could talk to developers and see if they're willing to take us on a tour.
Are there anything you would think that we should see? I guess I would.
Well, we've taken tours to University Place. We've taken some of those towards some of those buildings. The Green on Campus Drive, we've done that one. We've done Midtown Village. So it just depends on what's interesting to you or a new project or of anything currently.
I mean, we'd love to take you on a checker tour, but we're not even allowed to do that ourselves.
What tour?
Up the temple side.
Oh, well, you better repent.
People they allow on that or the inspector.
We can take it to Geneva Road, we could just look at.
Well,
If you see it, then let us know, because we can definitely talk to developers and see if they're willing.
But I do have a question unrelated about building permits stuff. So I'm facing, we have a resident in Utah that bought a house with a shed in the house that did not obtain a building permit. but he didn't build it
In Orem or in?
in Orem. Too close to the fence, supposed to be 6 feet away from the fence. Now he's trying to get a permit to do something else in his house, and they won't grant him that permit until he moves the shed.
Is it on an easement?
No,
Is it larger than 200 feet?
I don't know the size of the shed.
So if it's larger than 200 square feet, it doesn't require a building permit.
Okay,
And we would probably hold it up if they didn't need a permit. If it was new enough that we could say that they haven't got a permit. But it's simple enough to come get a permit and make sure that it meets the requirements.
we know it doesn't meet the requirement, we know it's too close to the fence. He was told by the city.
You can be on the fence as long as it meets certain criteria.
Okay,
But if it's large enough to require a permit, you can't be on any easement. So I'm assuming there may be an easement along the fence line, and that's where you can't be on that easement, if it requires a permit. If it doesn't, we just encourage people not to put it there, but we do allow them to put it on the easement. If and when they need to be relocated or remove it because the utility needs to come through, they can do that. Easy enough for something less than 200 square feet. If it's a permanent structure with foundation or putting some things, we make sure they're not on the easement. So I can look into that with you and see what's going on.
okay,
Shoot me an address or
so I'm
something.
getting the address right now.
Today, the track hoe started knocking down the Hillcrest School. So if anybody wants a brick, there will be some information coming out soon. Terry, you may want one, so. Wayne Gray's making sure they set some aside, but that project's getting more and more intense every day, so. Cool. We're 90% design drawings being reviewed right now, and officially we're under construction. But by the time the demolition's done, hopefully we'll start building the project as well.
Who's doing the demo? Is it Grant Mackey?
Yeah,
Okay.
he's doing it. And then tomorrow at 3 o'clock, we open bids on the water tank. And we're all crossing our fingers it comes in under budget.
What if it doesn't, what if it
It
doesn't?
won't, it won't.
Whoa, get better. But they've been doing some contingency planning just in case with construction costs being the way they are.
Do they know what the budget is?
They have an idea,
Okay,
yeah. I don't know that number off the top of my head.
is that good or bad that they know what the budget is?
We usually give an engineer's estimate on a project,
Okay,
when we advertise.
yeah,
Some good news, we did have a bid opening today on another project and it came in, it's not a big project, but it came in the 90,000 range and the engineer's estimate was 160. So that was very encouraging.
let's hope that same pattern follows with the next
That's a
one.
first.
Well, economies of scale, this one's got a lot of concrete in it, and the other one didn't have as much.
Concrete's expensive right now.
So this project that was bid today is to finish off the Sarah Pool has trench drains around the exterior and they're metal grates, and after being there for as long as they have, they've started to deteriorate, rust, fall apart. So last year they did phase 1 and replaced a big chunk. And this is phase 1.
Just a few minutes.
No, let's go.
Testing.
Okay, it's 4:30 and we, thanks for everybody that made it here. And Murray volunteered to give it the invocation. Thank you.
Our kind and gracious Father in heaven, we are so thankful for the blessings we receive. We're grateful to live in this wonderful country, in this wonderful community, in this wonderful city of Orem. And Father, we are mindful of all those who live here and who plan to live here and who do business here, and pray that thy spirit will be with us as we discuss the affairs of this city. And we ask thee to bless the leaders of this city and this country, and do so in the name of thy son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Sarah, go ahead.
All right. So item 3.1 will look familiar to you. It came through in August, July and August, to rezone this one large lot into 4 smaller lots from an R, and it went from an R7-5 zone to an R6-5 zone. This shows how it looks and that the current rezone is R6-5. This is the preliminary plat showing they will complete the cul-de-sac on the west side, and each lot will have street access. There will be no deep lots on these 4 lots. This is what it currently looks like from each side of the streets, each street. There's 2. And staff recommends approval on this. Did you have any questions for me?
No, looks pretty straightforward. Okay. We have no questions. Just make the motion. Okay. Make the motion, Planning Commission approve the preliminary and final plat for the Concord Plat A located generally at 507 North, 400 West in the R6.5 zone.
I second the motion.
Okay, all right.
Aye.
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 All right, item 3.2 is Pear Hollow Estates Plat E. And it involves 2 lots. They're each in a different subdivision currently. In 1992, this came through for a preliminary plat, and in 2004 also, but they never did a final, oh wait, yes. So they never, you can see by looking at this, there's kind of an odd shaped lot to the east of the southern lot. So that has never been taken care of. But the same owner owns both parcels. So this is the site plan showing what the new lots will look like. They will move the property line down because the lot to the north wanted to have a larger lot. These are the existing plats showing them in 2 separate subdivisions. And this is the proposed plat with the 2-lot subdivision. And this keeps moving by itself. These are the street views. And staff recommends approval of the Pear Hollow Estates Plat E. Did you have any questions for me on this one? I didn't mention that both lots do meet the minimum requirement for the R12 zone.
Great, well, yeah, what? It is a public hearing, yeah, but if you have any questions before we open it to the public? No? Okay, we'll open this to the public. If you have any questions or comments on this item? We don't have anybody, so we'll close this public hearing and move to the motion.
I'll do it. I move we vacate Lot 1 of Pear Hollow Estates Plat D and Lot 2 of Jensen Cove Subdivision Plat A, and approve Pear Hollow Estates Plat E located generally at 549 West, 880 South in the R12 zone, with the condition that property has been conveyed from one owner to the other by deed before the plat is recorded.
All right, second motion. Jerry?
Aye.
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 Next.
All right, item 3.3 is Selman Subdivision Plat B. This involves 2 lots. They were both owned by the mother, and she has recently passed away. She lived in the home to the north, and the son lives in the home to the south. Since she has passed away, the family wants to sell her house, but there's a large garage. And the son to the south wants to keep that garage. So they have moved the property lines so that the garage will be with the property to the south instead of to the north. And that way he can keep the garage and the other siblings can still sell the home to the north. This is similar to the previous item where there is also a deed that has to be recorded, transferring ownership of that part of the lot to the son, and then the plat can be recorded. So this one will also have a condition. This shows the 2 street views. And you can see how the garage will still have access from the street. And again, staff recommends approval of the Selman subdivision Plat B. Did you have any questions for me on this one?
We don't have any questions. This is also a public hearing, so we'll open it to the public for any comments or questions about this item. No questions or comments, so we'll close the public hearing and
I move the commission approve a vacation of a portion of lot 9 and all of lot 10 of Selman subdivision and lot 17 of Uvalde Gardens subdivision, and approve Selman subdivision Plat B located generally at 385 North, 200 East in the R8 zone, with the condition that the portion of lot 1 with the garage will be deeded from Lloyd and Linda Johnson to Nathan and Marissa Johnson before the plat records.
I second the motion.
Great. All right.
Aye.
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 All right, next item.
Planning Commission, thank you for your time today. We've discussed this 2 weeks ago in our pre-meeting at length. Any members of the public watching this meeting online, we would invite you to review the details of this at the meeting on October 5th. That should be on YouTube or on the city's meeting website. To summarize what we've discussed again also in this pre-meeting is there are 3 trail connections that are multi-use. There are 3 multi-use trails: the rail trail, the Lake Bottom Canal Trail, and the Geneva Road multi-use trail. They are in this section of the city with the orange box around it. Each of these trails are disconnected. By planning for multi-use path connections, it would create a better interconnected network of trails within the city, ultimately also benefiting both cities, but also increasing access to Utah Lake, as we discussed earlier. This is the specific amendment that we ask for a recommendation on to the city council. It's difficult to see for the public. Let's see if I can put it on this screen here. This was an existing trail built recently, so we've added that to the map, and then we've added a dash connector here that would connect the rail trail to Lake Save Sports Complex, 400 South, connect to the sports complex, the Geneva Road multi-use trail, and then a trail connecting Geneva Road under the underpass to what we're calling the Lake Bottom Canal Trail on the opposite side or east side of the tracks. With that, we would ask for the Planning Commission to consider a recommendation to the City Council on this.
Okay. Well, I have a question I forgot to ask in the pre-meeting. We talked about the e-bikes and the e-scooters. What I may fail to ask is there are some e-bikes now that reach up to 70 miles an hour.
Sure.
They call them the Sarans. Which we have a lot of our neighborhoods and a lot of kids have been severely injured by them. What's the status on those kind of bikes? I mean, do they have to be? I mean, they're motorized bikes. They're not pedal bikes.
Yep. I'd have to research that a little bit more to give you a solid answer. My gut reaction is that is probably a serious issue that we ought to start looking at. We may want to, as we look at safety improvements for any of these trails, installing some signage that indicates maximum speed limit. Typically, that's between 10 and 15 miles per hour on any multi-use trail. And we may recommend even lower speed limits for high use areas. So that's a great issue to bring up, and it's something I'll put on the radar for future planning. As far as laws around that, I'd have to research that more, whether we have city or state regulations about maximum speed, and I'll have to look into that.
Not that anybody would listen. There was a fatality on in Provo Trail with one of those e-bikes just a couple of months ago.
Sure.
It's coming around the corner. One of those e-bike rentals right by the gas station. They rented it, they went around and they died.
No, absolutely.
So we want to know more about that.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, obviously, this has nothing to do with the approval of this. It's just a question of,
No, I think it's a great question, and I'll start diving into that a bit as we do some future planning and especially as we get into more design detail with any improvements. One of the things we hope to do with 800 North is a lot more pedestrian oriented signage. And so this could, that question that you have can fit right into looking into the signage for that corridor.
awesome,
Seems
thank
like
you.
this little connector is kind of blind, isn't it? To where people would have to make a turn, isn't it? A little bit,
Yeah, so as it kind of, the one that goes under the underpass.
yeah.
Yeah, it's sort of a blind turn, and so, you know, it'd be a great place
Yeah.
for not only signage, maybe one of those reflector mirrors.
Yeah, the fellow that was killed,
Or
I believe,
concave
it was
mirrors.
kind of a
Yeah.
blind, someone
Blind
going
corner.
under,
Mhm.
coming out of a tunnel and.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, excessive speeds and all
Yeah.
sorts of weird reckless ways, including longboarding. All
Hard
this
to
stuff.
control that.
I forget what they call it, the type you roll down on your back. I mean, there's all sorts of, I almost hate to
Call
say
that-
it in a public meeting, but you
Call
know,
that crazy.
the law of Darwin, right? I don't know.
Yeah.
That's unfortunate when people get injured under any
Yeah.
circumstance, but we'll try and look more into those if there's regulations, but we'll specifically look into improved signage, and maybe if we don't have regulations, we come back with some proposed language of maximum speed limits on these trails.
Okay, thank you. Okay, is this the language for the action you need? An amendment to the parks? Yeah, it is it's a public hearing as well.
Yeah, I'm not sure if this is the actual language you need to use, but
I'd suggest a positive or negative recommendation and then with that language.
And it is a public. Yeah. No, we have not opened we'll open the public hearing now.
It does require a public hearing.
Yeah. So this is a public hearing. It's open for any questions or comments, but it's only the city here. So we'll close the public hearing portion and move with the recommendation. You want to do it, Jim? Now, okay. We make a positive recommendation to a positive motion. Yeah, positive motion to the amendment of the park recreation trails and open space master plan map 6 proposed trails and bike lanes to include these multi-use path alignment. Okay.
I second
Yeah,
your
Marie?
motion.
Aye.
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 Ryan, is there anything for us? before
Nothing this week.
Okay. Meeting minutes. Have you looked at the meeting minutes?
They are fine this week.
They're great. Thanks,
They're great
Madeline.
this week.
Okay. Make the motion to approve the.
I
meeting minutes.
move we approve the minutes from our last meeting.
I second it.
Great.
Aye.
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 Make the motion to adjourn.
I second that motion.
Okay. Gary?
Aye.
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 Thank you, everybody.